in this experience seemed there was something of great value being transported across lands and worlds. This great something was to be shared and distributed, but seems something had become distorted, in that everyone was vying for this great something, and quite prepared to kill for the possession and wielding of it. And so, what was to be a thing of beneficial sharing now was something fought over for the possession of, as to have it would afford the bearer great power over all others, at least in their minds at any rate. I had the impressions then. This thing of value was the real knowledge and references of the ears, in some shape or form, and of course these were only references then, as all knowledge can only be, and not the reality of what it was referencing. As with most of the unaware, in their minds they think that the knowledge of the ears is all important, and don't understand that it's all in the recognition that the knowledge hints at. And what we had in this experience was rather a potential distortion of ideas that centered around the claiming of this all is knowledge, and whomever had it would use it as leverage, as a means of control and power, and a subjugation tool for all others. For this was on a galactic scale. All manner of aliens and species seeking this great knowledge, or perhaps it was some artifact or other that represented the ears, a little like the rod of power, and how Joni wished to claim it, thinking the great secrets of the ears would become her, but failing to recognize the rod was a position and recognition, and not an actual artifact. I would see a group of individuals that I was a part of for a few moments of the experience, trying to protect the integrity of this great thing of value, trying to keep it from those who would abuse it, on the run with it, and being relentlessly pursued. It was as though I was afforded a view from one of the keepers of this thing of value's perspective, but the group and I were caught, slaughtered, and the thing of value was lost. Seemed then, as the experience continued, and I watched on, the universe descended into a chaos with aliens and species, all bickering and waging war like never before, all over the claim and want of this thing of value, this thing that referenced the is in some way. For whichever species laid claim to it, or rather the idea of it, was able to utilize it as leverage and gain military advantage over others, as most of the creational universe agreed to this idea as something that bestowed significant favor on the species that possessed it. Anything, any artifact, can have power if it is agreed upon. Someone could wield an old sock, and if everyone agreed that the carriers of it had advantage over them, cause and effect decision on this matter would make it so. It was as though I watched a great many years and centuries roll by, as I received my impressions of these affairs. In the end, some tentative galactic truce was established, and this was achieved by dividing up what seemed to be a collection of key planets into the keeping of the biggest antagonists, species-wise, as though these planets represented key strategic positions of military advantage in certain regions of the universe. Much of the fighting and warring was based on racial division as well, discrimination between species. This distorted idea had reached from one corner of the simulator to the other. I would have a view of the negotiations that had brought about this shaky truce of peace, demonstrated as an individual who had the distinction and the function of ensuring diplomatic peace between all species involved in this mayhem. He would present each race with ideas in turn, based around the distribution of these key planets. Agreement was secured, but the only way this could be so was by surrendering the majority of these military advantageously placed planets to the most warlike of the species involved. This was a risky decision, and there was much unease among the other species, who had secured far fewer key planets, and the systems these planets were in. But overall, it was the only way to secure a peace, and so it was done. I never really had a determination of the actual species involved. That feature was lost to my personal self. But they were numerous, and all mired in the idea of racial discrimination, and the want for this great reference to better their military might, culminating in the division of these planets. My last view was of a meeting held by a group of very aware individuals, and at first I thought that they were aware representatives of the various aliens involved in this treaty, but it's more likely they were the real guides, for much as the real guides can, these beings could see with their awareness all potentialities and outcomes, and whatever was in effect at any given moment due to overall agreement. At this moment, the peace treaty was in place, the planets distributed, but as I listened to the guides in discussion, they spoke of how it was a peace that would not last. For the most warlike of the species, who had secured the most planets, were plotting and planning to use the advantage that the placement of these planets provided to launch an even more effective military assault on the universes and all other species. And indeed, it had been their plan all along. They never intended for peace, even as they extended their agreement to this sharing of key strategically positioned planets idea. here the experience ended. So as Duane says, expect very few aliens to actually have the awareness to fully recognize what's going on. And make no mistake, we are then dealing with potentially a lot of volatile, personal self-immersed and driven aliens of dangerous technology.
Okay, so if you would, on this, it's very, very good. And this aligns itself with everything that's taking place here. And more so and more so, it's a verification of what I'm writing, the new language, the 3 letters, all these things. You see, now they're catching on to what I'm doing. And they know that there's something more so hidden with this language. And it's going to become more so and more so. So everybody has to keep up. Okay, so if you've got a personal life, forget it. Because again, this isn't what this is about. No personal life. You got to get real here, being to being. This is how it is now. All that history and all that cutesy stuff in relationships, forget it. It's only going to drag you down. So if you want to be on this real adventure, it's going to get more real. If you would, take this experience and as you've read it or whatever, it's fine. Make a video out of it, okay, and put it out there. It's just very, very good letting the aliens and everyone know, because I know in Leal and Aki and all them, the Queen, etc. So again, I've made treaties and provisions with them, but yeah, they can't be trusted, etc. And they're just not seeing it yet. So trying to warn them too. And this whole thing that's going on with the numbers, and when you're describing these warmongers, these alien warmongers, sounds like the United States government, doesn't it? They make up all this funny stuff, etc. Also, this, and I'm not saying you're wrong, even though, see, there's been a distortion for the longest time here. And that is the idea that this is a universe. See, that's fake. The deceptors have, fooled people into thinking that this is reality and that this is a universe. No, it's not. And I've defined that many times. This is a realm, and it is a dark black realm. It's evident right in front of everybody, and we're on floating rocks. That's really what it is. And this is where I've defined the differences between here and the real universes. But NASA and all these other knuckleheads, they use the idea of universe to fool people into thinking that, oh, this is the universe. Well, it's really not. Just like the US government, it's like, oh, we're the good guys, we're helping you, etc. Well, no, they're not. We know that. So this is the physical realm. This is a dimensional simulator that we're in. We're in this creation bubble here. So it becomes more defined for people. So they're not under the illusion, or with the illusion, I will say, that it's something that it's not, and that it's God's universe, and all these cute little ideas that do not work anymore. We're just sweeping them out because it's all friggin' nonsense. We're saying it like it is. But please, if you would, that is just terrific. That explains a lot. We're providing this for everyone in this realm and the galaxies, etc. So they make the choice. They're going to hang themselves, most of them. But yeah, thank you very much, Kevin.